The early 21st century emerged from the shadow of the Cold War, but stability remained elusive. With the collapse of the USSR, power vacuums appeared across Eastern Europe, the Middle East, and Africa. Regions like the Balkans and Iraq became flashpoints for ethnic and religious tensions. The US, now the sole superpower, struggled to manage these fragmented landscapes. By 2003, the Iraq War exemplified how post-Cold War interventions often ignited further chaos. Data from the Uppsala Conflict Data Program shows over 20 new conflicts erupted between 2000 to 2010 alone. Traditional armies no longer dominated the battlefield. Non-state actors, terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda, militias in Somalia, and insurgents in Afghanistan exploited weak governance. Their tactics, guerrilla warfare, suicide bombings, and urban combat. The 2001 invasion of Afghanistan revealed the limits of conventional military power against shadowy networks. Drones became a key tool, but civilian casualties fueled resentment. According to the Costs of War project, asymmetric conflicts caused over 800,000 deaths by 2020. Oil, water, and minerals became catalysts for conflict. In Iraq, the U.S. invasion was partly driven by oil interests, while in Africa's Niger Delta, rebels attacked pipelines to protest exploitation. Lake Chad, once a vital water source, shrank by 90%, triggering clashes between farmers and herders. A 2019 UN report warned that 40% of global conflicts were linked to resource scarcity. Rare earth minerals, essential for tech, fueled tensions in the South China Sea and Congo. Warfare entered the digital realm. State-sponsored hackers targeted critical infrastructure. Russia's 2015 attack on Ukraine's grid left 230,000 without power. The Stuxnet virus, allegedly US-backed, sabotaged Iran's nuclear program. Cyber espionage stole trade secrets and manipulated elections. A 2020 report by the World Economic Forum ranked cyber attacks among the top 5 global risks. Unlike traditional wars, cyber conflicts blurred lines between military and civilian targets. Superpowers avoided direct confrontation, instead fueling regional wars. Syria became a battleground for US-backed rebels, Russian-supported forces, and Iranian proxies. Yemen's civil war saw Saudi Arabia and Iran clash through local allies. Arms shipments, documented by SIPRI, surged by 50% from 2010 to 2020. Proxy wars prolonged suffering. The Syrian conflict alone displaced 13 million. These conflicts served as testing grounds for new weapons, from drones to chemical agents. By 2015, over 65 million people were displaced, the highest since World War II. Syrians fled to Europe, Rohingya to Bangladesh, and Central Americans to the U.S. border. Overcrowded boats capsized in the Mediterranean, fences rose in Hungary and Greece. The UNHCR reported that 1% of humanity was displaced, straining economies and fueling xenophobia. Far-right parties gained ground by scapegoating refugees, as seen in Germany's 2017 elections. Rising temperatures birthed new wars. In Sudan, drought exacerbated Darfur's genocide. Pacific islands like Kiribati faced extinction, sparking territorial disputes over relocation. Militaries classified climate change as a threat multiplier. The Pentagon's 2019 report warned of water wars in Asia. By 2025, the UN predicts 1 billion climate refugees. Soldiers already guard water trucks in India, while Ethiopia's Nile Dam disputes threaten war with Egypt. The US-China rivalry turned tech and trade into battlegrounds. Huawei bans, semiconductor wars, and AI arms races defined the 2020s. China militarized the South China Sea. The US responded with freedom of navigation patrols. A 2023 CSIS report warned of a tech iron curtain dividing the world. Unlike the 20th century's ideological clash, this Cold War was fought over data, 5G networks, and rare earth dominance. Disinformation became a weapon. Russian troll farms manipulated the 2016 US election. COVID-19 conspiracy theories delayed global vaccinations. A 2022 Stanford study found that fake news spread 6x faster than truth. Social media algorithms amplified hate, triggering violence in Myanmar and Ethiopia. Hybrid warfare now blended cyber attacks, propaganda, and real-world chaos, eroding trust in institutions worldwide. By 2025, the world abandoned multilateralism. The UN Security Council deadlocked, trade wars severed supply chains. The US, China, and EU formed competing blocs, each with its own tech standards and currencies. Climate agreements collapsed as nations prioritized survival. Historians noted parallels to the 1930s, a prelude to darker times. The 21st century's wars weren't isolated events, but symptoms of a system in crisis.